Good morning. So here for Thursday, we are starting something new with our decimals. We are multiplying by whole numbers. So what we're going to do today is learn how to multiply decimals. And before we do that, we're just going to do some simple multiplication without decimals up here, just to kind of warm up with multiplication and just get the wheels turning. So once you're done doing those review exercises and speed drills, we will start multiplying decimals. So there's just one main thing to think about when you're multiplying numbers that have decimals. You multiply them just exactly how you would multiply regular numbers without decimals. However, at the end, you have to place the decimal in the correct spot, which means how many places the decimal is in your number. And I'm going to show you what that means and how to do that. Okay, so here for our first sample, we have 3.43 times 2. So what you're going to do is multiply this exactly as if there was no decimal. So you can pretend that the decimal is invisible for now. So I'm just going to multiply normal. 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 times 3 is 6 again. Okay, now for multiplication, you do not just bring the decimal down always. What you have to do is count the places that the decimal is. So in this number, we have a decimal going 1 and 2 spaces. So that means that in our answer, our decimal would go 2 spaces. And this one seems easy because essentially you could move the decimal down, but I don't want you to do that because it's not always like that. Let's do the second sample. So here we have one that is a little bit more challenging, and I'm going to help you through it. So we have 4.3 times 1.2. So what I'm going to do is pretend those decimals are invisible. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. We have to multiply our second digit here, so I'm going to put a 0 here, just like as if there's no decimal. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 4 is 4. We have to add because we had a double digit. Okay, now that I have my answer, where do I place the decimal? Well, we are not going to just move the decimal down. That would make the answer incorrect. We're going to count the places the decimal is moving in our problem. And here we have a 1 space and then 2. So you have to look at both numbers. Because the decimal is moved in 2 places, we would go and move it here, which makes kind of sense because 4.3 and 1.2 would make 5.16. It wouldn't make 51. So sometimes you have to just take a peek, make sure that your answer makes sense after you place your decimal. So here we've done our first 2 samples, and I'm going to do number 1 with you just to make sure. So we have 2.15 times 3. I'm going to multiply it with the invisible decimal first. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, how many places is the decimal skipped? 1, 2. 1, 2. The decimal goes right after the 6. So you're going to do the same exercises from 2 to 10. Just remember, multiply first regularly as if the decimal didn't exist, and then just count the spaces that your decimal has skipped in your whole problem. That will tell you how many spaces you should skip in your answer. So here for Thursday, we are continuing on with our adjectives, with our modifiers. So here we have think, see. We're just going to change the proper nouns to a proper adjective and make sure that each answer begins with a capital letter. So this is going to be kind of easy because we have our example here on page 85 where we learned that if you're talking about a country, which is a proper noun, you'd capitalize it. So if it says America, you would write American. So here on this page, you have other countries, and you're going to modify them. So if it's from Japan, how would you write that? Well, you would write, well, that's Japanese. So you're going to modify these 5 as describing words. Here for Think D, you're going to underline the adjectives in the following sentences. So whenever you see an adjective, which is a modifying or describing word, you're going to underline it. There are 2 in each sentence. If you cannot find them, ask the adjective questions and then circle the proper ones. So you're going to underline the adjectives, and then if they're capitalized, you will circle instead of underline. And it says here, if you can't find any, you're having a hard time, then go back and ask these questions. Which one? What kind? How many? How much? Or whose? Once you answer those questions, you'll find the answers in these sentences if you're having a hard time finding the describing words, the adjectives. And here is just a look closely, which are just reminders and tips, and it says you can actually use a dictionary to help you tell the difference between a compound noun and an adjective modifying a noun. So we're going to get into this a little bit more when we get into writing in this unit, but you can read through this. It's giving you some good examples and just explaining how you can use a dictionary to help you tell the difference. So we've been learning about compound nouns for a while, and now we're learning about adjectives, and it's going to explain the difference here. In this case, it starts with using English horn and then English language, and it's going to explain to you the different ways that it can be either a compound noun or an adjective modifying a noun. So after you read through this, I'm going to go back next Monday when we come back. We're going to really look closely into this so that we can do a good job on our assignments where we tell the difference between these 2 subjects. So don't move on to page 87 until we come back for Christmas break, because we will have a writing assignment on comparing these concepts. And here for Thursday's assignment, what you're doing is identifying synonyms. And by now you probably know what a synonym is. It is a word that means the same, 2 words that mean the same. So what you're going to do is you're going to write a list word down here with the synonym of the underlined words in this little announcement paper. So after you read these, who, what, where, when, and why, kind of like an invitation, you're going to see the underlined words and then pick from the list, to look through all of them, a synonym, a word that means the same or almost the same. And it on this page there are 7 of them.